One of the most common points of confusion in spiritual, esoteric, slow, and metaphysical exploration is this. Why do so many people describe similar beings, names, myths, or events, yet tell entirely different stories about them? How can multiple narratives feel true at once, even when they contradict each other? The answer lies in understanding that timelines do not exist as isolated tracks running side by side. They exist as overlapping harmonic layers, each resonating from a shared origin pattern. Timelines are harmonics, not separate worlds. Reality behaves less like parallel universes and more like musical octaves. There is an originating frequency, an archetypal pattern, and from it emerge countless expressions. Each expression vibrates slightly differently, shaped by context, environment, and consciousness. When a pattern repeats across realities, it does not repeat identically. Just as the same melody sounds different when played on a violin versus a drum, the same archetype manifests differently depending on the plane, culture, and individual perceiving it. The pattern remains recognizable. The story does not. Why similar names and beings appear with different stories? Names are not proofs. They are handles the mind uses to grasp something vast. When consciousness encounters a large archetypal force, it does not receive a perfect, literal transmission. Instead, it receives impressions, symbolic imagery, emotional textures, and intuitive flashes. These are then translated through language, belief systems, mythology, and personal psychology. This is why one person may describe an encounter as a goddess, another as a dragon, another as an angel, and another as a planetary intelligence, moon, or asteroid. None are necessarily wrong. Each is translating the same originating field through a different lens. Similar names recur because the archetype echoes. Different stories emerge because the interface changes. How practitioners access the same source, yet receive different truths. It is rare, and generally not many can access the entire ocean of consciousness. Each practitioner, mystic, or channel accesses a specific current. That current is shaped by their nervous system, emotional history, symbolic vocabulary, cultural background, and perceptual range. One person may tune into the nurturing aspect of a force. Another may access its destructive or transformative aspect. Another may receive it purely as symbolic or psychological intelligence. All are valid within their bandwidth. Conflict arises only when someone mistakes their slice of perception for the totality of the source. Contradiction does not mean falsehood. In linear thinking, contradictions signal error. In multidimensional systems, contradictions signal depth. A force can be benevolent in one plane, neutral in another, and purely symbolic in a third. What changes is not the source itself, but the rule set of the plane through which it is perceived. This is why mythology, spirituality, psychology, and cosmology often clash while still mirroring one another. They are describing the same patterns from different scales. What people are actually accessing. Most people are not accessing a literal, shared historical record. They are accessing archetypal memory, symbolic intelligence, and pattern recognition across consciousness. When debates arise over what really happened, they are often arguments over maps, not territory. The territory is vast. The maps are partial. Healthy engagement with these ideas requires humility. No single perspective holds the full picture. Literalizing every vision into concrete fact leads to distortion. Dismissing all symbolic experience leads to sterility and plateauing in one's growth and evolution. When meaning is held lightly but consciously, insight remains flexible and alive. Timelines echo because reality repeats patterns the way nature repeats spirals. Never identical, never random. What matters is not which story is objectively correct, but how a story shapes the consciousness of the one who carries it and the people affected by it. The true nature of truth can be difficult to grasp for some at first, as this is not how truth is taught or understood in the physical world. Truth does not live in rigid certainty. It lives in resonance, integration, and awareness. When one fully understands this about truth, it will help empower them so that they may more consciously alter and change their life and circumstances. And now for reframing collective timeline anchors. Collective timelines hold power when their stories are treated as fixed, inevitable, or morally absolute. This relates back to what was mentioned about how and why the true nature of truth can be difficult to grasp. When one sees it as absolute, it lessens the ability to break away or alter course, or even realize breaking free was ever an option at all. Civilizations anchor themselves through shared myths, historical narratives, and symbolic identities that define who is dominant, who is fallen, and what outcomes are considered possible, and what methods are considered true or viable. When these narratives are reframed, their binding force weakens. In terms of individual beliefs, reframing stories can be destabilizing if one holds rigidly to certain ideas and teachings. History does not change, but its authority over the present does. By shifting historical interpretation away from inevitability and toward complexity, continuity, and choice, societies loosen inherited constraints, release repeating cycles of conflict or suppression, and open space for new cultural traditions. In this way, reframing collective myths is not revisionism, but liberation, allowing humanity to step out of unconscious historical repetition and into more deliberate evolution. On a personal level, the same principle applies to individual lives. The story a person believes about who they are, where they came from, and what is possible acts as a private myth that shapes perception and choice. When that story is reframed, its limiting grip loosens. The past remains part of the record, but it no longer dictates identity or direction. By choosing beliefs that emphasize agency, adaptability, authenticity, and meaning, a person steps out of automatic repetition and begins to participate more consciously in shaping their own path. Once these concepts are fully integrated, understood, and embodied, An individual can become nearly unstoppable in terms of succeeding in their vision and increase their manifestation powers.